Okay, everyone. So we mentioned that we had our main sequence star. It was converting hydrogen to helium. And then it turned the helium into all of the elements up to iron. And then when iron starts to form, nuclear fusion stops. And if nuclear fusion stops, let's look at our forces. What do you think happens if nuclear fusion stops? Will we have this pressure? No, we won't have this pressure anymore. When nuclear fusion stops, this force disappears. What happens? Gravity pulls the star inward and it collapses. And when it collapses, it forms a supernova. So it collapses so hard that it bounces off and it creates a giant explosion called a supernova. One of the brightest things in the whole entire universe. It actually, when it happens, it shines brighter than the whole galaxy that it's in. Okay, so at this point, we now have a supernova. So when the star begins to fuse, make iron, nuclear fusion stops. You guys remember why it stops? It stops because the elements smaller than iron, when they are made, release energy. But the elements bigger than iron use energy. Okay, that's why it stops. Use energy, or it needs energy to happen. Okay, like it can't happen unless you put energy in. So for instance, I can't think of an analogy, but it's fine. So what happens when it stops nuclear fusion? There is no longer that pressure. The force of pressure it's called counteracting the force of gravity. That means like going against. Counteracting means going against the force of gravity. Okay, so we no longer have that force going opposite to gravity. So what happens? So the star collapses in on itself. Technically, it collapses in on itself and then bounces off of itself to create an explosion. Okay. So after this happens, one of the most beautiful events in the whole universe, it creates this beautiful picture, and all of those elements it made, the oxygen, the nitrogen, the iron, all of these elements, where do they go? They go into space. And someday they will become part of a solar system. I can even put that here as a little side note. Where do all the elements go that are, I'll just put this. All of the elements created by that star are now ejected, we'll say thrown, is my synonym, into space, and later will become a part of a